21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
What happens when culture goes wrong? Toxic cultures, unhappy people, sad, sick, unhealthy, toxic teams, relationships breaking down, managers not sleeping. And of course, for the executive, completely knocks their scale and growth strategy right off course. My name is David Liddle, and I work with organizations to create really powerful transformational cultures, the kind of cultures where people show up, do their best work, they thrive, where teams flourish, and where the organization excels. And it's really about creating a people-centered, purpose-driven, values-based workplace culture that underpins the highest, best possible performance in our organizations. We build cultures that drive high performance in our organizations, because ultimately, if it's not about high performance, it's just about words on a wall. It's about how do we create spaces through culture, through leadership, through the organization's systems and processes that underpin the best possible performance. And when do we perform at our best? It's when we're happy, when we're healthy, when we're fully engaged, and we feel actively involved in the organization. In other words, when we're completely aligned to the organization's purpose, the why of the organization. For the last 25 years, I've been working with organizations to help resolve conflicts and disputes agreeably and in a way which is going to help build stronger, better relationships. So my background is in conflict resolution and dispute resolution. And when I speak to many entrepreneurs, they ask me, well, how does that help you think about culture in our organizations? And what I tell them, and this is a really powerful point, what I tell them is actually the way that we communicate, the way that we disagree, the way that we resolve issues, complex issues in our workplaces, the way that we handle difference and divergence, that is about shaping a positive culture. Because after all, culture is defined by our behaviors. It's defined on how we feel. So my background in dispute resolution and supporting many small business owners and entrepreneurs to find peace in their offices, to find resolution in complex issues, has taught me some very powerful lessons about what a great culture looks like. It looks like a culture based on dialogue, engagement, listening, and a positive mindset to resolve issues constructively rather than defaulting to violence or aggression, polarization or belligerence. And goodness me, aren't we seeing a lot of that in our world at the moment? And we can all see the damage it causes globally and in our offices. When I'm talking to business leaders and entrepreneurs, I often ask them, what's the thing that keeps you awake at night? And they don't say it's strategy, they don't say it's finance, they don't even tell me about the merger or the acquisition. They tell me it's about the behaviors of the people in their organization. It's the people and the challenges that come with them. And often those behaviors can be very challenging behaviors, people not talking, not listening, not performing, not responding effectively. We see that every day. So the challenge for the entrepreneur is, how do we turn those often destructive and harmful behaviors into positive opportunities for growth, for learning, for insight? So I talk a lot about coaching and developing coaching conversations for our entrepreneurial and entrepreneurs and leaders. I talk about using their skills around innovation and creativity in product development and brand building to help them create the positive behaviors that will help shape and scale their business for the future. So it's about reframing some of those behaviors. And that always starts with an understanding that behaviors are born out of the mindset that we have. In order to be able to understand how we change behavior, we need to understand the mindset. And to do that, we need to ask two really powerful questions as entrepreneurs. And they're very basic questions. We would ask them to our customers, to our suppliers, to our shareholders. We ask people, how do they feel and what do you need? But what really amazes me when I'm working with organizations around conflict resolution or indeed around culture change, is those two questions are often overlooked. but they are the powerful questions that we can be asking to help shape a great transformational culture. I've written 3 books. My first book was on conflict resolution, and what that provided was really powerful examples of organisations who were moving away from grievance and formal compliance-led approaches for resolving issues in the workplace, often driven by managers who are very fearful about resolving issues. And I drew from examples like Burberry and Next and the BBC and many, many other organisations to help them understand the way to resolve conflict effectively is to engage in positive, meaningful, resolution-first approaches through dialogue and mediation. My second book was about helping to shape the culture of our organisations, and I drew enormous examples from organisations across the world. My third book, People and Culture, was really powerful. And what was different about that book is I set out to tell the story of chief people officers who are helping to create transformational cultures in their organisations such as PwC, WPP, Zurich Insurance, Coca-Cola, many, many others who told really that spoke with the same voice, a universal voice, that when we as people leaders, managers, business leaders, executives, HR, and so on and so forth, introduce compassion, kindness, empathy, dialogue, the kind of things I've been talking about so far today, when we introduce those, it's not about a moral or ethical perspective in creating great workplaces. Those are the principles, those are the approaches, those are the values that underpin creativity, innovation, insight, and learning. And they are the currency of the future of work. Everything else can be automated, and if it isn't yet, it soon will be. Yet the ability for 2 or more human beings to engage with each other, to engender a high learning environment, to promote growth and creativity and insight, can only come about when we help people to handle disagreement, difference, and challenge effectively. So the chief people officers were tearing down the structures and the infrastructures that they built over 30 or 40 years, hierarchy, autocratic management styles, command and control systems within our workplaces, rigid policies, compliance-led processes. They were dismantling the architecture of that to create people-centered workplaces that promoted inclusion, dialogue, engagement, those principles which bring people together and harness the energy when human beings connect with each other, oftentimes during periods of conflict, distress, trauma, and harm. And those are the moments when we can unlock the best of what it means to be a human being. We build culture intentionally through every word that we utter. We are the culture architects. And as entrepreneurs, as innovators, as creators, we are innovating and creating culture. So if it's a culture that we don't consider, maybe we use language which is unpleasant or offensive or exclusive, we are creating a culture that will become those things. The language, the words that we use, the behaviors that we demonstrate, that shapes and crafts the culture. So we need to be intentional and think about, what culture do I want to create in my organization today? How do I want people to feel? How do I want them to behave? How do I want them to show up? How can I create a space where people can do their best work, they thrive, they flourish, and they excel? And what do I need in order to be able to achieve that? What's my purpose? And what's the purpose of the people with me? And of course, the best entrepreneurs know this. They know this in their DNA. They listen first. They seek to understand. They want to understand what people's needs and goals and motivations are. They create an alignment between their needs, goals, and motivations and those of other people. They're using that in their sales techniques, in their brand building, in their value proposition, in their marketing, in their PR, in their communications. The best leaders, the best organizations recognize that those very same techniques of entrepreneurship and enterprise and innovation and are core to creating a positive culture. So I remind them, use those skills internally as much as you're using those externally. And I guess what's really interesting then is we start to think of the employee as a consumer. The employee is a consumer of process, system, culture, leadership, management. And the best entrepreneurs recognize that the employee, much like their customer, is consuming the organization. So when they think of the employee as a consumer and start to think about their experience in the workplace, it rewires it from the employee as a utility. They just turn up as to be utilized, or an asset, which can then be subsequently downgraded and used over a period of time and depreciated on the balance sheet. And now we have people who are showing up as powerful contributors to the workplace and consuming the systems and processes. So I'm inspired by principles of servant leadership and transformational leadership and inclusive leadership, these powerful leadership paradigms and models which are about helping us to lead effectively while serving and supporting the consumer of my leadership. And that requires a reimagining and a reawakening of the relationship between the entrepreneur. But the best entrepreneurs, wow, when they get that, the cultures that they create are just incredible places that people want to work. They want to stay, where the customers want to do business and the investors want to invest their hard-earned capital and equity into the organization. When I set out in the world of work as an entrepreneur, my work was very much around mediation and conflict resolution services, and we provide exceptional high quality mediation and conflict resolution services. But we provide so much more, because I realized as a mediator, many of the conflicts that I was managing came from leadership challenges and leadership deficits, from HR processes which were retributive and acrimonious, and from management capabilities that were in absence or lack of training. So TCN Group provides leadership development programs through our Engaged Leadership program. We work across the globe delivering really powerful leadership interventions. That might be through classroom teaching, online or virtual classrooms, and of course a real focus on coaching as part of developing leadership capabilities. For human resources teams, we help them to rewrite the policies, moving from retribution and blame and sanction, and that sort of zero-sum game that sits within the HR policy. We help to rewire and rewrite the entire people and culture, to give it its modern title, the people and culture operating model. We also provide extensive training for organizations who want to get culture right. So we run a program called Culture Catalysts. What a great program to help develop and design the culture for your organization. One of our most popular courses is a program called Quality Conversations. How do we have a quality conversation when performance drops, when a conflict arises, when I'm managing change in our workplaces? So we run a whole array of different training programs and training courses. I think it's also worth mentioning that our approach, whilst a lot of it's around building capacity and delivering consultancy, we spend a lot of time understanding what's going on for our organizations and for our clients. So we spend a lot of time doing diagnostic work and cultural audits. And the reason we do that is to help them and us understand what's working well, and also where are some of the challenges in the organization that they can then address and lean into to help create a really powerful, positive, transformational culture. So our work centers around diagnostic, consultancy, and capacity building. We really want to help people understand how we work, what we do, and why we do it. So we offer free webinars and masterclasses. I also very recently launched a magazine called The People Leader magazine. And The People Leader magazine tells stories from chief people officers, chief executives. We recently featured the chief executive of the Financial Times, John Slade, telling his story about cultural renewal within the Financial Times. It contains masses of really powerful, useful, actionable content within the People Leader. So I'd recommend anyone who is interested to subscribe. It's free of charge to subscribe, or the first year is free at thepeopleleader.com. That'll give people access to the magazine and also an array of summits or webinars, and also in-person events where we focus in particular on specific issues. So for instance, it might be about building resilience in our workplaces. And obviously we're talking a lot about resilience at the moment, given global events, building resilience. We might focus on well-being, inclusion, We focused recently on an event in mergers and acquisitions. So these are really powerful ways of digging into specific areas and topics. So as well as my books, the magazine, the webinars, I'm also very, very happy to have conversations with people. My favorite topics are conflict resolution, culture change, and building positive workplace team climate. So if anyone wants to speak with me, it's my favorite topic, and I'm always happy to engage in conversations and cups of coffee. I was working in a coaching session with an entrepreneur CEO of a large organization, really impressive. But they were telling me they were very stuck. There were some challenges around engagement. They were losing some of the good staff, some of the good employees, and they were getting some customer complaints recently. So we were spending some time in coaching sessions. And what they were telling me is they were listening to what people were saying, and people didn't feel appreciated. They weren't feeling valued. They weren't feeling heard. And actually what they created as the business had scaled is silos, functional silos, and separation. So we ran through the coaching sessions, and what we got to the point was this wonderful phrase, or a fabric, if you will, around culture building. And what the chief exec wanted to do there was to go out and really start engaging with and listening to their people, recognizing that they're not invisible. So the first thing that they were going to say, I see you, and listening to their people and seeing them and recognizing the value that they're bringing. The second one is I hear you. They went out and started listening to what people said and really listening to understand there was no defensiveness. They took down the walls, broke down the silos, removed that kind of functional separation, and started really hearing what people were saying. The third thing they said is, I appreciate you. And what had happened is the speed of growth and the way that the organization had kind of grown abroad and vertically is people had stopped saying thank you. The natural stuff that was happening every day from an owner-led business was not happening. I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you. And the third message was, I understand you. Because ultimately what we want as human beings to feel understood and respected. So as the CEO went out after the work we did together, they wrote to me sometime later and said it completely transformed not just the relationship that they were having with their senior leadership team and management, but also the way that managers were engaging with their employees. But critically, it began to break down the functional silos, which were the echoes of conflict and disagreements, the shadow culture of our workplace. So the most powerful advice I can give to a leader is, in an authentic way, express to a colleague, to a manager, and to an employee, I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you, I understand you. Now let's get to work. And when that's delivered in an authentic way, it's meeting every need that we bring as human beings. And that's the fundamental building block of a positive culture in our workplaces. In my 20 plus years of working with senior leadership team and senior leaders, I understand how challenging it is. I understand how remote we can feel, how invested we are in the organization, and how that growth and scale can actually increasingly take us away from the work that we love, that the organization can become very siloed and we can become very distant and it can feel very isolated. And the work that I do with leaders is to try and invert that pyramid and help our leaders connect with people to listen and learn. And that might be through conversations that they're having, the way that they run meetings, the way that they organize their presence within the organization. In old money, it was talking about management by walking about. But it's actually what I talk about is it's giving your people a jolly good listening to. Now, what people said to me is, this sounds great, David, but, you know, I'm going to bed at 11:59 p.m. and I've realized I've got a difficult performance conversation tomorrow. I don't feel ready for it. So I don't sleep very well and I'm feeling tired and restless. So I created an AI GPT specifically for 11:59 p.m. called the Pocket Coach. So I created a GPT for people called the Pocket Coach, and the Pocket Coach is specifically designed for 11:59 p.m. for the entrepreneur who's preparing for the difficult conversation at 8:30 tomorrow morning, to help them run through and rehearse and practice through the AI to actually have the conversation and gain feedback and coaching and advice and guidance. It's also designed for 11:59 a.m. after you've had the conversation and you've come through the morning and you're going, wow, that was challenging, but I want to debrief that. The Pocket Coach, which is available at the pocketcoach.live. That's it, the pocketcoach.live. Pocketcoach.live. And that is available to then debrief and explore the conversation. So what I wanted to do there was to be available at 11:59 p.m. or 11:59 a.m. and give really powerful coaching advice. So it's simply www.pocketcoach.live. It's free of charge, and the feedback that I've been receiving from across the board is it's making a real change in the way that people have those quality conversations with their colleagues, with their SLT and so on. I'm a huge fan of utilizing AI, not as a efficiency driver or a cost-cutting exercise. I think that's a zero-sum game, and it's not the way I think about AI. I see AI as an incredible productivity driver. How do I, as an entrepreneur, 2 or 3 times my productivity? And then how do I help my teams to do so? So I've created a number of custom GPTs, and I'm moving into more of an agentic space at the moment. I mentioned the Pocket Coach, a really powerful companion to support you having those quality conversations. Culture Doctor is a really powerful AI for business leaders to help shape and craft a positive, I call it a transformational culture in their organizations. So it provides guidance. So if you're having some cultural challenges, for instance, or if something doesn't feel like it's working, again, I've talked about silos. How do I break down silos in our organization? How do I get my marketing director and my sales director to work collaboratively? How do I understand the culture of my organization? So that includes cultural maturity indicators, coaching guidance. It includes everything I've ever learned about culture built into the AI. And the way that I've designed it is it's given practical, actionable tools. And as you're then working to deliver those actionable tools, my guidance is bring them back to the AI, test and learn, and continue to evolve and develop your relationship with the Culture Doctor, because the more it learns about what you're trying to do, the more impactful it will be over the short, medium, and longer term. It's also designed to help you bring people with you. So if you're wanting to have conversation about culture, but you're not sure where to start, how do I begin the conversation? How do I get it onto the board agenda? How do I get it into conversations I'm having around performance and capability? It gives really practical guidance on where do I begin? How do I start having that conversation? So definitions of culture or definitions of leadership, how to create a business case for developing a positive culture. It's all in there, and it's free of charge. So if you're interested in subscribing to the People Leader magazine, please head to www.thepeopleleader.com to register for any of our free events or activities, or just to find out a bit more about the TCM Group, the organisation that I set up and run. Head to www.thetcmgroup.com. And of course, my 3 books are available on Amazon and on the Kogan Page website, who's my publisher. So I'm very grateful to Kogan Page for having the confidence in me and helping me to publish those books. And track me down on LinkedIn as well. So LinkedIn, you can find me, David Liddle, on LinkedIn, where we can have some great conversations. So lots of different ways of getting in touch, lots of ways of getting involved. And I'd love to welcome you to the People Leader magazine, or of course to one of our future webinars or events where we can tell you a bit more about the work and the impact we have.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.